Hello guys, how are you doing? Saturday uranium. We will dive into uranium very quickly here to see we've had a good week, but we are also coming into some major resistances here on basically all charts, basically, more or less. So let's see what's going on here. First and foremost, check out the silver miners here and the walkthrough of the list that we have. I think gold miners and also silver miners are looking fantastic. I have been saying that for a long time, that especially the gold miners are the best looking out there next to gold. But actually, gold miners is actually trying to break out against gold. Gold miners looks fantastic, and silver miners is about to break its 15-year wedge. 15 years. Check out the videos; you can see them there. And yeah, fantastic. I can see you have already been commenting on that one there. I have to check that after the video. Good. Uranium here, URA. URA. Again, we called the buy here at roughly 20, where buying URA makes a lot of sense. And look at this. We are on the daily now. The big level here, 22. Big one there since we charged. We broke out here and then we popped bang in back in 2023. Finally, we were breaking down and now we are back testing. So that is why, again, you can see the weekly candle here. Very strong weekly candle, almost engulfing that prior week. But we are into that resistance at roughly, 23, my bad, 23. And that's the one that we need to get above. That is the one we need to get above. Um, so again, could it be that we're gonna cut straight through next week? Yeah, sure. But again, we need to clear that level. We need to get above 23 on like weekly closing basis. Then it looks different. Again, that one there was a very good, again, in my opinion, buy. That's why we talked about it, buying URA there. But now comes the big retest. This was a massive breakdown in the structure, and now we are basically just back testing it. The good thing is that it's basically like a V shape, right? It's not, this slow. If you have a level that you break down and then you grind your way back, and then you roll over. So again, a bit of a V shape, which is good, but again, until we clear that level 23. Let's do that next week, shall we? URNM, again, we also bought some stuff here. Again, that trend line there is a trend line that I will buy into any day of the week. We broke down and now basically back testing that channel as well. So if we can get back into that channel, that's when it starts to look more constructive. Still heavily in a downtrend in uranium. You can see here we peaked again in like a year ago at 60, and we basically got cut in half. We got cut in half on the URNM in a year. And to be fair, this was our warning here, and basically going down ever since. So we need to get back into the channel here and start to trade above 33. Then we're into a bit more bullish minded view here. But the big moment now and the one to look for is that little red channel there. So we want to get back in, right? We want to consolidate, and then we want to break out. I want to add a little level here as well internally there. Yep, exactly. So still under pressure, but again, a good weekly candle. That's all I can say, but nothing more important. Again, gold miners, silver miners, they look way better than uranium does right now. Let's do a quick ratio. Again, I haven't planned this. We'll do the gold miners because they look fantastic. Good. This is basically URNM divided by gold miners. So since the low of 2020, basically outperforming, right? Massive surge here, and then just outperforming. And you can see a topping pattern here, right? That's the head and shoulders, neckline, measured move. We hit it right here, little rally, then completely roll over collapse. Basically, you can see the support zone that we have is somewhere around here, like that, right? We basically broke straight through. So clearly the gold miners are the stronger one. But I'm also thinking that look at how far we have come. Again, basically, you know, got cut in half here as well. Within a few weeks, like 2 months here, basically we got cut in half. So I think it's time to get like a little bit of a pushback here in favor of uranium. At some point in time, this looks very oversold. So at some point, you see rotation out of gold miners into uranium, for instance, because at some point in time it gets too stretched. Then we should see a retrace. But gold miners by far, if we invert this, you can see gold miners really strong here. So good. URNJ weekly URNJ, the juniors, same thing in my opinion. We broke down here from the all-time lows, breaking down both from the yellow all-time lows, but also the red channel here. And now we're basically backtesting, basically just backtesting those major breakdowns. But if we can start to get back in, the same thing, if we get back in here next week, a very bullish outlook here. I wouldn't say bullish outlook, that might be a little bit of an over exaggeration, but very constructive to get back above the all-time low, getting back into the red, and then we can hopefully charge and attack the yellow. So that is the goal for the juniors, to basically start to trade north of, well, let's say close to like 15, north of 14 is good. North of 14 is good. Again, good weekly candle, but nothing, URA, URNM, and the juniors are basically hitting resistance here. They broke down last week, like 2 weeks ago, and last week, this Friday, we back tested that breakdown level. So we're not excited here, even though we had a great run Friday and also Thursday. URA divided by the spot price. Look at that again. Back test. Okay, mega surge on that back test in relation to the spot price. Fine, but again, this was also a breakdown moment here, and we're basically back testing now. So good reaction to that trend line, but basically just back testing. What you also can see here is we have a lot of, right there, you can see a lot of support and resistance in there. So again, the gold miners, excuse me, the uranium miners will not do the big gains until we clear that channel there. And if we zoom out, I'm still in the camp that this is VIGHUF accumulation, but this was definitely a little bit of a kick in the face here, because we need the momentum to turn higher. We don't want to stall here for too long. So yeah, we need to get back above 0.36, and then we can actually break out. That would be, then I'm heavily bullish again on uranium miners. But until then, still struggling a little bit, but nice reaction to the test of that internal trend line. Again, URNM divided by the spot price, we're still stuck. We're still stuck in a 5-year range. Not a range, but a channel going down. You can see the reaction here at the lows, fine. Again, you can see here. So this means that as long as that channel is in play, we're most likely going to go to here, then hopefully do that. But again, looking at this alone, and given how cyclical it is, I would say we're just going to go up into that little zone here, and then we will see what happens. Because until we break here, we will not have that major outperformance by URNM compared to spot price. Good. Here we have the U.UN. Nice weekly candle. I like the fact that we had 2 levels here. We had the pivot high here, like a false breakout high, and then we have roughly not a, and then we have the 18 here. We tagged it and we pushed back. Okay, fair enough. Still, our impulses here are still, the count is still good. But again, we want to, again, we really want to, well, we closed inside the blue, which is okay. Not overly excited, but we finished here at like 19. I want to see us go to above 20. At that point in time, I'm like, okay, this might be that moment where we finally do the bottom there. So I think this could be a potential future head and shoulders and then breaking out. But again, as you can see, we're still coming down, down, down. So until that is proven, it is, a little bit of wishful thinking to call it just yet here. But yeah, nothing more. Again, I'm not overly excited here yet, even though we had a great week in uranium. This to me here, the U.UN, the uranium spot price. You can see here, we're basically back testing the pivot high and that trend line there, like a 15-year trend line. We're basically back testing as we speak. If we are to hit it, we are going to go from 64 down to like 61 for the complete back test. Still overall a great flag. But again, we have just been in a downtrend ever since the peak of 2024. So I do believe we will find a ton of support here. And also here, I want to show you something that I showed with to my good friend Burak here. If I remember correctly, look at this here. This is against inflation. We're back testing that one now. So we have a commodity measured in inflation that has been breaking out big time in 2023 from a 15-year trend line, breaking out and back testing. So again, that's, one to watch here. And you can see we have a ton of support here as well at roughly 0.20. So I think the lows are close in uranium and the spot price. But again, we still have a lot of short-term momentum that is, rolling over into our face, and we need to undo all that. Good. The gold and silver ratio, again, I just want to point out that nothing good happened above 92. We talked about it many times. We don't want to see it spike above 92. Things are bad at that point in time. And boy, was that correct, right? We had a lot of drops in all markets. Everything collapsed there, basically. And you can see we're still spiking here. So still coming to the upside. But again, short term here, you can see that spike here. Boom, all the way up. And this is that's actually a flag. Therefore, if we start to, and that's also maybe why you see the gold and silver miners do so well these days, is because they are anticipating that this might be the peak in that ratio. And remember, I have said, I don't think we will ever exceed that one there. I can't see that happening. Of course, anything is possible, I know, but I can't see that happening due to the scale of the event, I can't see that happening. So again, if this is the peak from this whole thing here, that is when you, again, I want to show you here, that's the surge, whoop, all the way up, and then you have the bear flag. That's the pop, and then you have the bear flag on a smaller time frame and smaller amplitude. So interesting here, if we start to see the collapse down here, we zoom in here, if we start to, I'm sorry, if we start to see that whole thing, to do that right. And again, when that happens, if that happens, when the gold silver ratio drops, especially if it comes down very hard, miners, yes, the mining will do well. Good. URNJ divided by Cameco. Interesting structure here in 2025. You can see we have come down very, very far. Since the peak in 2021 here, we've come very, very far down, meaning the broader uranium market is underperforming Cameco. Cameco, the blue chip. So that means that we are in a I wouldn't say a bear market because the big guys has done well, but it means that the smaller guys are underperforming the big guy. And therefore you are not seeing that whole thing push higher and higher very rapidly. But what we're seeing here, and remember when I say that when we have rounding bottoms on a log scale and you get a double bottom, that's often when you have a very solid double bottom. But let's see if it holds. It's just a ratio that we look into for the bit of fun of it here. Because when we know if we start to rally in the ratio, that means that the small guys like Laramide, Denison, Energy Fuels, whatever have you, that they are outperforming the big blue chip. And that means that everything is going up together, but Cameco does less and the small guys does more. So hopefully that is the case, but still, let's wait and see to call anything on that part. URA divided by the U.UN, again, VICUF until proven otherwise. That's the case. And if we see the VICUF pattern play out here, somewhere in from 4 or 5 years from now, we will have the miners. If it plays out, again, it's still textbook dead on in my view here. We will have the miners do 200% more, 200% better than the spot price. And that's when we are looking for an exit, in my view here. Oh, there it is, by the way. And that's when we're looking for an exit. But definitely we want to see that big pop here soon until we get to the spring. Then we spring higher. Short term here, what can we derive? Weird, messy price action, right? It's just double bottom here. It held. But again, it's just very choppy with an angle to the upside, luckily. You can see the angle here. This is the median, right? And then you're basically oscillating around that. So if this is the case, then we're going to go up to here right before we come down again. So again, that's all, guys. My summary here, very good week on the weekly candlestick formation here, very large green candle. How is the volume? Actually quite good, very good volume as well. But every ETF is into a somewhat of a bigger resistance, right? So that is what we need to overcome, hopefully next week. But let's see. Especially if we see oil. I want to show you oil before I go, and the gold and silver ratio to come down. Then that could be a possibility. We have here. I want to show you oil, weekly time frame oil, back test of the 20-year trend line. Boom, test. Okay, good. We did see a little rally in this week here. If we zoom into the 2-hourly, this is what happened during this week here. This is basically last week's, and I like what I see if we can clear that neckline, guys. If we can clear the neckline, this is the retest, by the way, of that 20-year trend line. If we get the pop here of roughly, let's call it 63, we can do the measure on oil, and then all of a sudden, what we had was a false breakdown from the 4-year wedge, right? You can see we're getting back into the wedge if we start to pop here, and then we have had a mega false breakdown. And what often happens is that we go to the other side of the formation that we had the false breakdown, and then we just surge. That is the ultimate bullish view on that. If we can get that to trigger and reach the target on the 2-hourly, then energy will be great again. And uranium, energy, fine, that's good. You will also see the gold silver ratio come down there. Fine. Then we could have a very constructive path ahead of us. But until we clear those resistances on the URNM here and the URNJ, the all-time low, we are not going to be excited for uranium until that happens. So that's it, guys. Again, as you can see here, maybe I've switched back to Zoom until I have solved the issue with the noise, sound, all that good stuff on the OBS. So have a great weekend, guys. Stay safe, all that, and yeah, just